For my $1.2 million house, my payment is $3,900 and I have a second mortgage on it for about $2,000. As time has gone on, my business has slowed down and I have been struggling. I'm currently making $8,000 a month. I wish I would have stayed where I was and didn't listen to my agent or lender.
It's funny how you only hear amazing, great stories when it comes to home purchases. But I recently asked you guys if there's anybody out there who deeply regrets their home purchase and if they're willing to share their story. I found 3 stories of people who regret buying their home. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go over each case and talk about the mistakes that they made. And hopefully, maybe someone out there can learn from these mistakes. Let's talk about our first friend, Sadona Mike, who decided to respond with their story, which goes as following.
I do. Bought our house in February 2023. Got a 5.5 interest rate and owner paid closing costs. However, my inspector, well reviewed at 4.5 plus and word of mouth, missed quite a few large ticket items and now we're left with almost $50,000 in repairs that are needed. Most of it needed by the end of the year. I used your advice in sheets, formulas, but even after the amount I held over the repairs won't come close to being able to pay for it. Feel like it was the worst decision I could have made.
Wow, can you imagine that? $50,000 within 1 year. That's just insanity. And obviously he did his research. He, got his sheets done. He got his budget ready. He did everything as he thought he needed to, but there's just no indication of that $50,000. Or was there? This person got dealt a terrible hand, and unfortunately it happens once in a while. But really, there's a few things you can do to help prevent this from happening. Okay, now this is going to cost a little more money, but if you're super paranoid, and I honestly do recommend it if you're buying like an older house or something that looks like it was remodeled really cheaply, it's okay to do 2 home inspections. Okay, when you're hiring a home inspector, they do have like insurances to protect them. But really, they're going to give you very vague terms for what they find. Let's say the water heater is maybe old, but it's technically working. They're going to be very vague and they're going to say it's very old, it's in rough shape, right? They're not going to give you specific details of like, hey, this certain pipe or this certain device or this little thing in the water heater needs to be adjusted, and all these. They're not going to go into the super detail. They're going to be very vague because they're in CYA mode, cover their ass mode, or why cover, yeah, you know what I mean. So they're going to call out old things. They're going to be very vague with the things that aren't working, but they're not going to specifically say this is working great, this is not working great. And that's why their insurances do that, so they can protect them. So to protect yourself from this, you could technically do 2 home inspections and to have 2 very vague inspections done on your property to get a good idea of things. But you can only take this so far, because you can take these inspectors to court all day long. At the end of the day, they're going to probably write what they discovered so vaguely that they're not going to be able to be held responsible for these things. So what could this person have done? Well, here's the thing. You want to look at, let's say, all your major components, your roof, your air conditioning, your water heater, your foundation, whatever the case is. Everything has a life shelf or life expectancy. I know here in Phoenix, they give us a give or take 30 to 40 years for a roof, maybe 20 to 30 years for an air conditioning unit if it's well maintained. So when you look at an air conditioning unit that's only going to last you 25 to 30 years, and the inspection is done on it and it says, hey, it's working fine, you don't just go, great, I'm good. No, what you should do is look, well, how old is this air conditioning unit? It's 22 years old. Okay, but it's working fine. Yeah. So in that case, you might not have a lot of luck asking for the seller to replace the air conditioning unit or repair it, but you should take in consideration this AC is very old. And maybe you should ask the seller for a list of maintenance things. Like, can we get just a history of how often you maintain this thing? Can we get receipts or invoices? You can be super specific on it. And even if they don't have that or provide that, this should go into your consideration. An inspection period isn't just for you to do a home inspection. It's you to make the final decision on your house. Think about it. You only look at a house once before you make an offer on it. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But that inspection period serves as that last, like, okay, I'm going to go for this house or not. So really be diligent. And this person could have still done all of this and still be dealt a really crap hand, and things could just break over and like repeatedly. It really sucks. You can still, this stuff still does happen, but you should take extra precautions just to make sure you protect yourself from for multiple instances of this happening to you repeatedly. Here we have someone else who bought in actually nearby where I live, the Glendale, Phoenix, Arizona area. By Big Buy Wolf 3761. We bought in the Glendale, Phoenix, Arizona area last year and completely regret our decision. Hopefully sell after year 2. We ended up hating the location, very far from family and work. House shares an alleyway with an apartment and near the main streets, so we're always getting illegal dumping and homeless camps. House was in bad shape. They were still living in it, reeked of smoke, was near the start of a 5% rate, so we thought we were barely getting in after the 3% cash buyers, and our realtor kept feeding us fake promises that it would all be easy fixes and not an issue, great deal. Spent a ton of improvements. I mean, we love the house itself now, but after everything in the location stress, it's a regretful purchase and no way a forever home. Ouch. Here's the thing, and this is a good rule of thumb when you're buying a house, and it's actually enforceable in some states. Don't listen to realtors when it comes to like condition of the house. They can actually be held liable if they say, oh, this doesn't even look like a big deal, and it ends up being a big deal. They can be held liable. I don't care how much experience agents have, whether they've remodeled or fixed houses, or they have a construction background. We have no business doing this. We have to be able, as buyers, to build some codependency from our agents. Like we like to lean on them and say, okay, what do you think about these repairs? What do you think about this? Was this a big deal for you? At the end of the day, even if we're dealing with two people that have no experience in construction, that agent as a person could have maybe a higher tolerance for stressful things like the stuff that they're mentioning. So them saying it's not a big deal, maybe for them it's not a big deal. But either way, that is just their opinion. That should not be your opinion. So when it comes time to repairs, and like here in this case, realtor keeps feeding us fake promises that it would be easy fixes and not an issue, we want to not give too much credit to what they're telling us. Agents are there to assist you, educate you in the home buying process, help you with the paperwork, get the offer accepted, help guide you through the escrow process. But they're not there to help you with key decisions like this. And I get it. Maybe you don't have any people around your circle of friends or family members. But if you're on your own, you have to be careful who you're asking for. You have to remember that agents have a natural bias because they need this deal to close for them to get paid. Now, of course, I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm sure there's agents out there who can help you and assist you the best way possible, and they can give you a selfless reason. Or like I said, maybe they feel like they're being honest and they're telling you it's not a big deal because maybe it's not a big deal to them, but they're not going to be the one living there for 30 years. Now, this whole thing about the alleyway and the apartment and the main streets, that's a tough thing. And really the only thing I can tell you, other than making sure to really walk around the area, drive around the area, get to really know the area. Once again, we only look at a house once or twice before we actually buy it, which is insane. Really do your research, like drive around the area at different times during the day. Go knock on a few neighbors' door, ask them what are the issues of the neighborhood. I feel like if there would have been a little more research done and not just trust your agent, you probably could have figured out some of these things before you made the offer. But I get it, and I hope that you are able to sell it within after year 2, so you can get out of there. And even if you make a little bit of money or you're cut even, whatever the case is, you've learned your lesson and you're going to be a much more educated and smart buyer for the next time. And last but not least, you're probably wondering how the heck is this person only making $8,000 qualified for a $1.2 million house with almost $6,000 of a mortgage payment? How is that even legal? Well, let's read their message. So yeah, I really regret buying my home. I was doing really well for myself. I'm self-employed, and in 2021, I made about $400K. This was really exciting for me, and I had really great momentum. I had a small and modest house that was fine, but we were outgrowing it. What I decided to do was look at my dream area and buy a $1.2 million house. According to my lender, I qualified easily. I felt a sense of security because I was making a good amount on my house sale as well. My realtor also told me that house values were going to continue to go up, so I had full confidence when I took the plunge. For my $1.2 million house, my payment is about $3,900, and I have a second mortgage for $2K. As time has gone on, my business has begun to slow down, and as of last year, I've been struggling, and I'm currently making $8,000 a month, and my savings is depleting at an alarming rate. I just wish I would have stayed where I was and haven't listened to my agent and lender. So the reason why they were able to get the house is because when you're self-employed, they look at the past 2 years. They can't look in the future. They don't have a crystal ball like our friend Christina Smallhorn says. They only look at the past 2 years, and they indicate that as you're like, this is what they're going to qualify for. This is what they can afford for the next 30 years. So this person made $400K, probably made something similar the year before. So the lender had full confidence giving him this full pre-qualification for $1.2 million. Now, other than this, what issues did you see what they said? There's a few things that we mentioned in the video today, but obviously let's just kind of go down the list if you don't mind. It was really exciting and my momentum was great. That's a thing. It's a common, it's the, what is it, the hot shot fallacy or something like that. When we think a basketball player has a, like, just making shots over again, they have a hot hand. You know, I think it's from the movie The Big Short, as someone they described it.
Now, this is a classic error. In basketball, it's called the hot hand fallacy. A player makes a bunch of shots in a row. People are sure they're going to make the next one. People think whatever's happening now is going to continue to happen into the future.
Just because things are going great and continue to do great doesn't mean they're always going to be that way. And making a huge financial purchase based on these good decisions can be crucial. Obviously, you took the plunge and it was terrifying. Just because you could buy a house doesn't mean you should have. Now, the second biggest thing I see here is that, yeah, they had a house already. They had a small house that they said they were outgrowing. I don't know their specific details. I don't know if they have children or if they have a partner or something, but they were outgrowing according to them. Could be them and their 10 cats. I don't know. Everyone has a different situation, but they felt like they were outgrowing it. Now, I don't know the specific numbers of what that house is, but I'd imagine it's way less than what you were paying. And the reality is you had a good thing going. You had all this momentum. And what should have happened is you should have used that momentum to build a really nice nest egg. You should have used that opportunity to stay where you are, living where you are, and really build a nice nest egg. You have to have like these certain things that need to be check marked before you consider buying a home. And in this case, with you having such an extraordinary amount of income coming in that you didn't have before, you should have defined that list. And that list is different for different people, but maybe if I were in your shoes, my list would have been like, okay, I have $100,000 in a nest egg fund, or maybe $100,000 invested in like a 401k or mutual funds or whatever. Just build like a small investment. That's just the number I'm throwing out. I'm not, you can make that number whatever you want. You could say, you know what, I'm going to build a 12-month emergency fund. I'm going to really make sure I'm going to be solid. And maybe you thought, like, I knew you wanted to buy the $1.2 million house. So maybe you should have built your emergency fund based out of that. Maybe you should have said, you know what, before I consider buying this dream house in a dream area, it's going to be $6,000 mortgage and probably going to be close to $10,000 in just like living expenses. Let me save up like 6 months of that or a year of that before I even consider buying. And I don't blame you. It was such a weird time, 2021 to 2022. It was just like everything was just going, and there's a lot of businesses that were making a lot of money. People thought it was, interest rates were low and things were just going to go great. But the reality is you made a decision based on what you wanted, not necessarily what was best for you. And you got put in a situation where it's tough. And now I hope that there's equity there. You didn't tell me the idea of the house or if you have money in it or anything, but I hope there's equity there. And honestly, you can do the same thing I recently did. Like I went all out like 2 years ago and I bought a Tesla, and I thought it was my dream car, and I always like, oh, I want to do it. And it was like payment way too high, more than I was comfortable with. I recently traded that sucker in for a like 2-year-old used hybrid Corolla. And I love that thing. It's like 60 miles to the gallon. And the best part about it is I got rid of the Tesla, and I have the ability now to buy this car outright. I made the choice to say, you know what? I don't want to be one of those people that have a luxury car that have the super high monthly expenses for this thing. I want to get rid of that, and I'm going to drive around a 2-year-old hybrid car that has great mileage, and I'm going to have it paid off. I'm going to have no interest, and I want to work on that. Maybe you can do that, where when 2 years does pass up, you can hopefully sell it, get some equity out, you learned your lesson, get back into something more manageable, and start working on your business again. Because the good news is you have the ability to make $400K. Maybe you can put yourself in a position where the noose isn't so tight that you can actually focus and get the ball rolling. And I think the last thing we're going to mention, I think everybody's probably screaming at this point, is the realtor said that prices were going to continue to go up. Lender says is perfect. And I'm saying this as a real estate agent, okay? Lenders and agents, there's a natural bias there. They want to sell a house, right? But they're not going to be there for 30 years. So it's important that we use agents and lenders as a tool in our arsenal, not as our trusted guidance counselors. They're going to guide us into prosperity. A lot of agents really made a name for themselves by being these like mentors and like guidance people, because, and especially in the investment world, because honestly, it's been stupid easy to make a lot of money on real estate this last decade. Buy a house, you sell a lot. If you have a lot of money, buy a lot of houses, hold on for a few years, sell a lot of houses, make a lot of money. It's been stupid easy. I want to see what they're doing now in this market. I want to see how they're investing in this market. And truth be told, probably a lot of them aren't making a lot of money flipping houses, or they're not making a lot of money doing rentals. So the thing is, we need agents and lenders because that's just the way the system is. Okay. But there's a reason why it takes 90 hours to get your real estate license, and it takes like years and incredibly like intense testing to get your like series 6, 7, 6, 3, 6, 5, all those series that freaking financial advisors need to have. Like it takes years and a lot, like so much, like really intense. Then you have to agree to a bunch of things, and you have to be very careful what you say out there. But realtors, like 90 hours, and suddenly we have the ability to just give advice freely nilly. Use them as tools, as an asset in your arsenal, not as your trusted advisor. You can hear their opinion and you can take it with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, it is up to you to make the best decisions for yourself. There's a lot more crucial homebuyer mistakes that you need to avoid when you're buying a house. So I highly recommend you check this video that a lot of people tend to agree just goes over the bare minimum of the mistakes you need to avoid. Anyone else that's brave enough to share their story, email me at contact@javiervidana.com. That's it, folks. Good luck out there.